Now the biggest controversy of the night, and this involves CNN. Here they go again. So we're going to show you here so you can see with your own eyes the framing of the questions that went to the different candidates. We're going to go first to clip 7, and this is about the question we've always wanted, right? Hey, Bernie Sanders does better in the polling than Hillary Clinton does, and they're going to ask Hillary Clinton about that against the Republican candidates. He's actually more electable, but they can't help themselves. Watch how they ask the question after they presented, and we all got excited here, like, whoa, they're finally asking it. And then look at the end of the question. Watch.
In a new CNN poll, Sanders does better against Republicans than you. Do you buy that?
No, I don't buy that at all. I think any horse race poll this far out is meaningless. And I also think that, and I'm proud of this, Senator Sanders and I have run a campaign based on issues. And we haven't been personally attacking each other and running negative ads. We've had differences on issues, and we have tried to draw the contrasts, which I think is fully appropriate compared to what the Republicans have done. I'm pretty well vetted. I think people have a good idea about, what I've been through, who I am, and I think that actually makes me the stronger candidate to go into a general election.
So what could have been a tough question, especially if they had put up the polling. Here's the last 3 polls. Here's the last 5 polls, all showing Bernie Sanders is, in fact, more electable. Instead, they said, there's some polls that way. Now, do you buy that? Now, when you say, do you buy that, it's, number one, it tells the audience that the questioner doesn't buy it.
Yes.
Right? Like, why ask it, like, do you buy that? Like,
do you buy that?
They say that the grass is green. Do you buy that? Like, why would you add that question? They say the sky is blue. Do you buy that?
Like they're selling a load of shit. That's what that implies, right? So that's that. You only say, do you buy it if someone's selling something, and that means that it's not real. They're trying to bullshit you. They're used car salesmen trying to get you to go on with these polls that are scientifically done.
Yeah, 2 + 2 = 4.
Do you buy it?
Do you buy that?
But one thing I'm mystified at, CNN is a TV channel. TV is about visuals. You're talking about a poll.
And they don't.
CNN doesn't show the poll that they're referencing, showing Bernie Sanders is doing better than Donald Trump. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. And second thing it does is it invites the person to answer the question in this way. No, I don't buy that. I think that's nonsense. That's how she's going to answer the question. Anyone who gets that question that is to them, negative, like, hey, Bernie Sanders does better, do you buy it, is going to answer, I don't buy it. These questions didn't, occur to Anderson Cooper at the moment. They're crafted out ahead of time with the help of a lot of producers, right? They put a lot of thought into them. When you write it, and they're not impromptu. They're all written out, verbatim. When you say, when they all decided, do you buy that? You think they didn't have a conversation? She's going to answer, no, I don't buy it. It's a softball designed to appear to be a hard question, right? It's a veneer of hard question designed to be a softball. It's unbelievable. Okay, if that was the only thing, you'd say, hey guys, come on now, you're overdoing it. At least they asked the question that he's doing better in the polling, right? So now let me show you the rest. You think after she gave that answer, maybe Anderson Cooper would follow up with, but now, wait a minute, now let me show you all the polls, and apparently the American people don't agree with you, right? No. This was the very next question.
One of the things you said actually to me at a town hall, I think it was New Hampshire, it's been a while, we've done a lot of them, it was really personal, and I had never heard you said it before, and I think you've now said it once or twice, that this doesn't come naturally to you, that your husband, it's part of his DNA, it's not for you.
Right.
Is that, can you explain that a little bit more? Can you talk about that?
Well, it's funny because every time I have a job, I get really, really high ratings. Go back and look at my favorability ratings when I was Secretary of State and how well regarded I was when I was in the Senate and as First Lady, when I started, actually getting into politics. So whenever I have a job, I really work hard to do it to the best of my capacity. And I get good results. And I work across the aisle, and people who never have a good thing to say about me when I'm running for something actually say really nice things about me when we're working together. So doing the job, getting results for people, making a difference for our country, that's what I feel best at and what I am committed to doing. And I think that the kind of results that I get when I'm actually holding a position speak to that.
You know, we had a personal moment where you opened up on national TV in the middle of a debate in a pre-prepared talking point about, how you're not a natural politician. I mean, again, if Anderson Cooper genuinely believes that answer that Hillary Clinton gave to him earlier was just spur of the moment, she's like, oh, Anderson, you got me. I'm not a natural politician. This doesn't come naturally to me. Okay, then you're a fool and you should retire immediately. You're not a journalist. You haven't covered any politics. Of course, that's a talking point, and it's one that they prepared because she's not polling well on likability. She comes off as a standard politician. She has that answer prepared. That's what happened in the earlier debate. Now you know that. You know what happened. And in this debate, you bring it back up like, softball. Oh, you're a real person, aren't you, Hillary Clinton?
H. Christ.
I mean, this politics doesn't come to you naturally, does it, Hillary?
My God.
I mean, we had a moment there, didn't we?
No, it doesn't come. You're not like these fucking guys, are you? You're a regular lady, aren't you? You don't go around voting for wars that kill people. And oh, wait a minute, you don't go around. You weren't on the board. Every job she's ever been on, Jordan, she's gotten high ratings, even when she was on the Watergate committee. And I think everybody hated her on that, and the guy who ran it wouldn't give her a letter of recommendation afterwards. That's a fact.
And when she was a Republican in her previous life. But I think
her job when she was the board member for Walmart. God, they loved her.
Sam Walton did give her very high ratings. That's why they donated a lot of money. They said they would donate the maximum they could to Bill Clinton to make sure he becomes president, even though Sam Walton had previously never backed a Democrat. But they're like, these Democrats are a good investment.
Different.
I think what's interesting, if you actually rewatch Hillary Clinton and then the Bernie Sanders interviews, when CNN asks a tough question to Hillary Clinton, right after, you pretty much get an apology. All right, we're back to basics. Can you tell us why you're great and why, as a politician, you're not natural, but humanize her a little. When CNN asks Bernie Sanders a tough question, right after, they hit him over the head 3 more times.
In fact, we got that on tape for you as well. Before we get to Bernie Sanders, one more from Anderson Cooper, because they just asked 2 very favorable questions, right? One in the framing, one just flat out as big a softball as you can get, until you got to the very next question, which might have been an even bigger softball. Let's watch.
But actually going out and campaigning, it is harder. It is harder for me. And it may be partly that it seems harder for women, and I recognize that. And also, as someone who has supported, my husband and other Democrats for so many years, moving from he or she to I or me is not easy for me either.
Do you think you're held to a different standard? I've seen people on television saying, oh, you should smile more, that when you're yelling, it sounds, that when you're speaking, it sounds like you're yelling. Yeah. Do you think that's is that sexist?
Well, let me say, I don't hear anybody say that about men. And I've seen a lot of male candidates who don't smile very much and who talk pretty loud.
So, how unfair has the media been in the double standards? And they're so sexist against you, Hillary. Wow, that's a really tough question. Ironically, you're saying that there's a double standard against her, as you're asking her the easiest questions that have ever been asked of a politician. If there is a double standard, it's in her favor. Look at how incredibly soft you guys were to her. But you guys all get that. Now, I want to give you a juxtaposition. We could have done this with almost every question they asked Bernie Sanders. But what really stood out was 4 questions in a row about Castro and whether Bernie Sanders would invite him to the White House. All of a sudden, the gloves are off. The gloves were on during Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders comes on, and we get this.
Let me ask you about Cuba. President Obama is obviously in Cuba right now, a historic visit. As president, would you also make history? Would you invite Raul Castro, if he's still the leader of Cuba, to the White House? So normalized relations for you, that would mean even inviting a leader like Raul Castro to the White House as other leaders. The moderators played a video of you way back in 1985 in which you praised Fidel Castro. You said he educated their kids, gave them health care, totally transformed their society. Do you think the Cuban Revolution was good for the people of Cuba? At that debate, Hillary Clinton went after you for, in her words, essentially praising the regime of Fidel Castro. This is something in a general election would no doubt be used against you.
Now, we just gave you the questions because he gave you really long and thoughtful answers about what he thought about Raul Castro and what happens in a country when you normalize relations with them. Asked and answered, asked and answered, asked and answered. But no, Castro. Hey, everybody in the audience, Bernie's a democratic socialist. You know what? Castro, socialist. You know what I'm saying? I only asked it 4 times, though, right? So, look, we're not making this stuff up. That's why we show it to you. You make your own decision. You just saw all those videos. Watch the whole thing. Here, become a member of the Young Turks. You can watch the whole live coverage, okay? tytnetwork.com/join, okay? And isn't it super obvious what's going on? And so with Hillary Clinton, hey, she might be president. We need access. Time Warner is the 7th largest donor to Hillary Clinton through the course of her campaign. With Bernie Sanders, Time Warner has given him nothing, the parent company of CNN. When he comes on, we can't have it. We don't want change. We want pro-establishment. So here you go, Castro.
But I could tell you, because we've spoken a lot about when I cover the candidates on the campaign trail, how either misinformed or uninformed people are. Part of that is this. Part of that is these ridiculous questions that if you only have 15 minutes with a candidate and you're spending 75% of it on hot air, people aren't informed. They don't know what Hillary Clinton, who she's taking money from or this and that. They don't know that Bernie Sanders just out fundraised her again in February by a substantial margin. None of that comes up.
Whenever they outraise, upstart candidates, it's always like, hey, you're not competitive. You don't have enough money. What are you doing in the race? Come on, get out of the race. You don't have enough money. When the upstart candidate has more money, all of a sudden there's no questions about it. And you guys who are obsessed with the horse race, part of that is how much money you've raised. All of a sudden, nothing about money, right? And they had an opportunity here to ask Hillary Clinton about her changing positions on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, on gay marriage, on social issues, economic issues, you name it. There's a dozen things you could choose from. Or all the money she's taken, right? So forget the paid speeches by Goldman Sachs and the banks that she put into her pocket. But campaign contributions, you take money from pharmaceutical companies and then you say you're going to be tough to pharmaceutical companies. But if you took, and give specific numbers, X amount of money from this particular company, well, why do you think they gave it to you? Do you think they're suckers? That they want to pay with their own money for you to go get them? But none of these questions are asked. Instead, they let her run out the clock by asking softballs. When Bernie comes on, hey, you could be equally soft to Bernie Sanders. I don't want that. I want them to be tough on all the candidates. You could ask him challenging questions about policy. Or you could spend that time doing propaganda against Bernie Sanders by going Castro. Hey, I spent half the time talking about how you like communists. Oops, did I do that?